And this week on The Communicators, we want to introduce you to Andy Purdy. He is a Chief Security Officer at Huawei Technologies USA. Mr. Purdy, what does that role entail?
Well, primarily it's an internal role. I chair a U.S.-wide committee for cybersecurity and privacy that is similar to the one that we have globally, where you have representatives of each business group, IT, human relations, services, etc., that meets quarterly to manage the requirements for cybersecurity and privacy, to make sure that we are meeting statutory, regulatory, customer requirements and our own internal policies so that we can manage risk from a cybersecurity and privacy perspective. I also work with my government relations and public relations people to talk with customers, talk with stakeholders about issues and try to drive the conversation forward.
Give us a snapshot, if you would, of Huawei.
Well, Huawei is a company with over 180,000 people around the world. About 30% of our products come from Huawei. About 32% of the components of our products come from the United States, about $11 billion a year. We are an employee-owned company. We have, I think, about 80,000 people involved in R&D. We spent $15 billion in R&D last year, which is one of the most important factors and one of the advantages of being private. We don't have to worry about the quarterly numbers. We can invest in the long term, and that's what we're doing. Our people are motivated essentially by two things. We want to be involved in something that is very interesting and very important, and we want to provide well for our families, and I think we're doing both of those.
Who's the founder?
Mr. Wren.
And what's his background?
Well, he was an engineer, and I'm not an expert in it. He was a civil engineer with the People's Liberation Army many, many years ago. And he moved to form his own company with 4 or 5 others with a few $1,000s. And he's had a spectacular growth, not unprecedented in terms of other companies from the late 80s, such as Cisco, that have had dramatic growth also. But he has always incentivized people to produce, to innovate, and to be customer-centric. That's the primary focus of Huawei, is to be customer-centric, to understand their needs and their potentials, and to help meet those. And it's not to get every dollar of profit out of every particular contract. It's to take a long view, that if our customers make money and their customers make money, we're all working well together for a common advantage.
Do any of us in this room right now have a Huawei product in our hand or in our phones or anything?
Well, I have a Huawei phone. I left it in the other room, but no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Why is Huawei considered a threat to national security here in the U.S.?
Well, it's a complicated issue. There's not a simple answer to it. There is a geopolitical overlay of the issues related to Huawei. So the U.S. is not safe in cyberspace. And so the U.S. looks at things from a risk perspective, whether it's national security or other risks.
Let's bring Drew Fitzgerald of the Wall Street Journal into this conversation. He covers telecom and technology.
Thanks for having me. Andy, I'm curious, there have been rules proposed and rules enacted in the U.S. that have essentially all but banned Huawei equipment from being involved in most telecom networks, wireless and wireline networks in the U.S. So what's the status of Huawei's business operations in America now?
Well, we have about 1,500 employees in the United States. We have a very strong R&D presence. And as I mentioned, we purchased about $11 billion in U.S. components last year. Our business groups, our carrier business, our enterprise, and our consumer business, we are maintaining our revenues at present. The prohibitions in the National Defense Authorization Act, I think, kick in August of 2019, and those are focused on government contracts, which we do not and are not pursuing, and government contractors. And so there may be a greater potential impact going forward. We believe that in the end, the United States is going to have the kinds of measures in cyberspace that are going to make us a whole lot more secure. When we get to that point, we think we're going to be allowed to compete on a level playing field. But in the meantime, our biggest concern is probably our Tier 3 wireless customers that serve rural America. We believe that our technologies and the services we provide them are essential to farmers and schools and citizens and companies in the rural parts of the United States. So we hope we can maintain that service to serve those people.
And you continue doing business with those smaller rural providers in the United States.